Hi everyone. I'm going to start the video off by letting you know that we are having a dark and stormy day. So a lot of artificial light going on. If there happens to be a glare, I apologize in advance. Okay, so if you're here looking for a deep dive into the specs of the Onyx Boox Palma 2, I'll warn you in advance, this isn't that kind of video. But if you're someone like me who loves to read, isn't super techie, and just wants a device that'll help you stay focused, step one itty bitty foot outside of the Amazon bubble, and virtually eliminate reading on a harsh backlit phone screen, this might be the review for you. Now, I'll admit I was very hesitant to buy the Palma 2. At just under $300, the price tag's very spendy, and I don't usually enjoy the process of learning new tech. To reiterate, I'm an iPhone gal, not an Android gal, and this does run on Android 13. But within the first day, I was already optimizing apps, reading library books, saving money, and yes, I'll get into that in a little bit. And I was customizing the device to feel like my own personal cozy reading space. So let me show you how this tiny e-ink reader has already earned a spot in my daily bookish life, and whether it might be a good fit for you as well. Okay, so I'll roll a clip of my unboxing this device. When I first took it out of the box, my initial thoughts were the device felt pretty substantial for its size. It didn't feel plasticky or cheap. Also, the back does have a nice grain to it that if you were to be holding it outside of its case, it would feel tacky without feeling sticky. Although I don't know who doesn't use a case, so that's a little bit of an obsolete feature if you ask me. So right out of the box, it was pretty much what I expected after having done my own research. When I went to turn the device on though, however, I could not get it to turn on. I had to look at the directions. It said to hold the power button for 2 to 3 seconds. I would say it was more like 5 or 6 seconds. It finally turned on. I thought I had a dud. The initial setup was super self-explanatory. You're picking things like your language, your time zone, things of that nature. It also has you select whether you want to use a navigation bar or gestures. I recommend for like when you're first starting out with it to use the nav bar. That way it'll be there when you're in each app so that you can quickly access and optimize the settings for each app. I'll get into that in a second. It's a lot easier than it sounded, at least to me. Also, don't fret if once you get through the setup, you're seeing that it has the wrong date and time. It will eventually catch up to the correct date and time. Don't worry about manually adjusting it. Just keep it in automatic and it will adjust. So that's really it for setup. Like I said, it was really simple. I didn't start worrying about cleaning up basically your desktop. I simply went into Google Play and started getting the apps that I wanted to have on this device that I got the device for. And that is, most importantly, the Kindle app, yes. I am very entrenched in that ecosystem. I use Audible, Kindle Unlimited. I do have a dependency on Amazon. I have been a Kindle e-reader since 2009. I pulled out my old device that I have not used in years. I thought it'd be fun to look at what the very first ebook I ever purchased was. Don't judge, it was the 2000s. So once I had the couple apps that were most important to me on this device, which were Kindle and Libby, I immediately went about getting familiar with those on here. It's much like on the phone, right? Except we don't have that harsh backlight. So I'm able to read my Kindle books. I'm able to read right from Libby, which comes in such a pinch when you don't have the availability on Libby to download to your Kindle. Not many books have this issue, but some do. I would say probably for me, at least one book a month that I want to check out on Libby does not give me the option to read it on Kindle. Then I'm stuck either reading it on my computer screen or reading it on my phone screen, which will oftentimes cause me to immediately return the book and end up buying it or getting it on Audible. This is one way that this has already saved me a little bit of money. In addition to one other way, again, I'll get to that in a second. I feel like I'm getting a little bit off topic. So setting up your library app for me was very simple. I do use Libby. I have a few library cards through Libby. I thought I was going to have to go add all of my library cards onto this app, which maybe that was naive and maybe you all know more than I do, but that's not the case. What you do is you just go onto your Libby app that you initially use like on your phone, let it know that you want to add another device, and it gives you a code. This is already asking for that code. Once you put it in, all your cards are there. It's like a very simple way. Took maybe less than a minute when I thought I was going to be having to search for library card numbers. So that was really nice. Kindle, of course, you just sign into your Amazon account. Same with Kindle Unlimited. This does have speakers, which is really nice. Also, of course, Bluetooth capability. Another app that I downloaded that is new to me is the Kobo app. I've never owned a Kobo. I hesitate to get into a Kobo device because I feel like I'm just setting myself up for the same thing the same situation I find myself in now with Amazon, where yes, it might have more flexibility than Amazon does now, but who's to say that that's going to remain the case for long into the future? I would rather be using these apps and have more freedom. It gives you the ability to go between many different avenues of getting a book so that you can save money or read them for free. So anyway, Google Play Store, get the apps you want. They're going to show up on your screen. You can toggle between the different screens. You can clean up what they have by default put on your device. This is my iPhone and this is the Palma 2. I told you we'd be dealing with glare. So size-wise, and I have an older model of the phone, not the Plus. You can see that the Palma 2 is just a little bit bigger. Weight-wise, very similar. Weight-wise, compared to my current Kindle, it actually might be just a touch heavier. However, the size is so much more comfortable for holding. So real quick, I just want to go into the ecosystem flexibility just a little bit more. That's how it's going to save you money. Maybe I am justifying it to myself, but it's already stopped me from spending about $25 in just the last week. So the first example is that there's a book that I've been interested in for such a long time. I happened to come across it again when I was on Amazon looking at book reviews for another book that I had just finished up, and went to go check my library. Of course, it was available on my library, but not available to read on Kindle. So old me would have been like, you know what? I've wanted to read this book for a really long time. I like the cover. This is how I get into trouble. I like the cover. I'm just going to buy it. It's not something I'm going to read on my phone. I'm never going to do that. I'm not interested in having ghost images behind my eyeballs when I go to sleep. I never read on my phone, especially in bed. So yeah, the book would have cost me about 12 bucks. I would have justified it, not that much money. I've wanted to read this book a long time, bought it. So instead, I'm reading it on the Libby app on my e-ink reader. Started reading it last night in bed, very enjoyable. Okay, then another way that this has saved me money so far is I was watching BookTube, as one does, on Sunday night, and came across a video that was talking about a book that I had never heard of before. I checked my library. It wasn't available at any of my libraries. Checked Amazon. I could buy it on Kindle for about $14, which is crazy. Or I could buy the paperback for about $14 to $15. Checked Kobo, same price for the ebook. However, they had it on their Kobo Plus, which I am doing a free trial of right now. So I got it under the free trial. So there's another 15 bucks that I probably would have just justified it. Doesn't sound like that much money, but when you're doing that once a week, that really does add up. This, as far as I can see, having that expanded ecosystem is really gonna give me so many avenues to avoid buying books that either I'm gonna maybe lose interest in, pause my interest on, or not even like, and not want to keep a physical copy of it. Something that I thought was going to be a little above my pay grade is personalizing this device, changing things like the wallpaper, the screensaver. It's actually incredibly easy. I initially was using the web to find free PNG images and wasn't really liking anything. So then I decided, why not just make my own in Canva, using their tools and filters to create what I think are crisper and better images, more personal to what I want them to be. I'm telling you, I could do that for days and not get sick of it. You can take a PNG of the book cover you're reading, have that as your screensaver. If you like that, that is one thing that I do really like about the Colorsoft, is it was very easy for me to customize my home screen, my screensaver to be my book cover. Honestly, I don't know if all Colorsoft come with no ads. Maybe that is the case, but I didn't pay any more money to not have ads on the Colorsoft. So yeah, I'll show you real quick my screensaver screen. I made in Canva. I just put my name, books with an X, and a stack of books, which I probably won't keep. I'll probably do something different. You can add different pictures to be your screensaver so that it rotates out, which is kind of cool. Then let's say you're reading a book that takes place in Paris or in the springtime. You can add the Eiffel Tower, add flowers, do whatever you want. Like, the possibilities are endless. I really love this. I thought that it was going to be too complicated. It was so easy. You plug it into your computer, you open up the device's storage, go to the pictures folder, and simply drag and drop them in there. It could not be easier. This is just a fun little bonus, not worth the price of admission, of course, but again, it's just a nice way to be able to personalize your device, make it your own little nook. Is that trademarked by Barnes & Noble? Okay, so I think I want to get into a little bit of like what I would tell my past self if I could, that would assuage my fears that I maybe had going into this device. My biggest concern going into this device was all the videos that I saw. They were talking about how it's pretty cumbersome to go into all the apps and change your settings, change your refresh rate, things of that nature. I was like, I'm not gonna know how to change refresh rates to optimize each app. I'm not like a techie person. So if I could go back and tell myself, give myself a little bit more confidence, is that there's no need to go into every single app immediately and try to fix and optimize all the refresh rates and your settings, whether you want dark page color, sepia page color, white, whatever endless options some apps have. Just as you're in it, keep the nav bar, like I said, easily access the settings, change them as you're reading, as you're in there anyway, get it to what you want, and then it's going to keep it that. For me, the reading apps, I am fine with just having them on HD. That's the refresh rate. It's on the lowest end. And I also left it on the automatic setting of the screen refreshing every 15 clicks and refreshing every time I go home, or obviously to the screensaver. So every time you're turning the page, it's not going to be refreshing. You might see some ghosting. However, on that 15th click, your page is going to refresh and it's going to get rid of any mild ghosting that you might have. It is noticeable. I would say page turns are noticeable. That's true for any e-ink reader. When I turn the page on this, I will see the text bolden as it's turning the page. So that doesn't bother me at all. It might bother you. Every 15 clicks, sometimes the whole page will go white, which is very noticeable when you're in a dark mode. I did notice it doesn't always do that. So it's probably up to each app. Some, it might be more noticeable than others. This isn't a deterrent for me, but just want to let you know. Also, in both my Colorsoft and my new Palma, when you are in dark mode, you don't necessarily notice this during the daytime, but in the evening, I definitely could see a glow around the border where you are seeing that front light just on the border. But again, it's not like a harsh backlight like what you have on a phone or a tablet. I have the same issue with my Color Soft, but it is a little bit less noticeable on the Kindle. And I will say dark mode is more enjoyable on the Kindle. All my Kindles that I've had dark screen capability or dark mode capability, I do find to be more enjoyable on the eyes than on here. But in daytime, in white page mode, this is so crisp and so clean and just so easy on the eyes. So the simplicity of this device, that it is very intuitive, that's something I wasn't really expecting, and it probably gave me the price gave me the biggest pause, but that was second for sure, is that I just thought it was going to be so time consuming and almost like annoying to set it up, and I didn't find that to be the case at all. Who I would not recommend this device to are those of you who love to annotate. You can of course highlight, but that's not going to be like a very aesthetic experience on this device. This is like no frills, beautiful quality, but no frills. And of course, no color. It is my understanding that you can attach a hands-free clicker to this. I have one, but I haven't broken it out yet. I haven't had a need to. I do think in the winter I will, when I want to keep my hands under the covers. I think the one that I bought is universal to all of these types of devices, so I could use it on here and also use it on my Kindle. But while I wouldn't recommend this to those of us who love annotating, there are far more expensive and more suited e-readers to that sort of reading. And if you enjoy having, you know, such a large screen that you can have 2 pages on your screen at a time before you're having to turn the page. Also, something that I have not mentioned yet that I really like about this is that you can, in some apps, not all, so I did this in the Kindle app, you can disable continuous scrolling, which you don't have to scroll like you do on your phone. You can also tap, which is nice lazy way to turn the page. But you can disable continuous scrolling and you can use the volume buttons instead. So the down volume will be to go to the next page. The up would be to go to the previous page, which that's a nice option to have. If you do have a case on like me, where your case is covering these buttons, it does make them harder to press, and therefore it's less likely that I'm going to use that because my weak little thumb doesn't want to depress the button that hard. So I find that on this, I'm just gently tapping the border to turn the page. I'm not a scrolly page turner. I feel like that actually bothers my thumb after a little while. Another reason I recommend this device for those of us who have switched from a typical black and white to an e-reader that does have color, I'm trying to avoid the glare, is that with this technology comes a bit of a graininess in the font. So I can't even describe to you or show you on camera the crispness and quality of the text on the Palma 2. So that's my experience so far with the Boox Palma 2. If you have any questions, I know there's a lot I didn't cover here. If you're trying to figure out if this would be a device that would work for your reading style, go ahead and drop a question below. I'd love to help if I can. And if you're into book reviews, recommendations, monthly wrap-ups, TBR planning, and just figuring out what to read next, usually with a little hiking and trail footage mixed in, that's the stuff I usually post here, so feel free to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon in the next video. Bye!